This is such a big topic today, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it and to hear from all our amazing panelists who I'm going to introduce you to in a second. We are here to discuss the future of coaching, essentially. So we know it's a growing profession. The ICF said that there's 120,000 coaches worldwide. On LinkedIn, there are 4.7 million coaches. It's a $5 billion industry, according to some stats. But then we know that that doesn't include consultants, mentors, educators, advisors, and all these coach adjacent professions that also happen. Another ICF stat is that 90% of coaches report having active clients and 40% are seeing increasing demand. So we know it's growing, but we also really, really know it's changing. And actually the only constant is change. So I'm going to introduce the panel, but first I just want to draw your attention to the anonymized screenshot that you can see on your screen right now. This is from Emma, not her real name, but this is what we're going to call her for this session. And so let's read this together because we're going to start with this quote. So I'm an ICF-certified coach with 20 plus years of experience, specific credentials, and a strong brand. And despite that, it's been extremely hard to attract clients recently. I don't think I'm being replaced by AI. I am being replaced by coaching platforms like BetterUp or CoachHub. Right now, I feel like a gourmet chef who spent years investing in world-class training and building a fine dining experience, only to find that the only steady work she can find is flipping burgers at McDonald's. And as much as you might be right about the macro trend that the coaching industry is booming, what I'm experiencing is the micro reality, shrinking budgets, HR gatekeeping, and the democratization of coaching, a term used by the big platforms to basically say that they are McDonald's in coaching. So if someone like me is struggling to grow a private coaching business, what kind of coaches are succeeding? Are they lifestyle coaches? Are they influencers? Are they solopreneurs selling courses? What are you seeing about what makes a coaching success these days that I am missing? So got this message from Emma. With her permission, shared it to a few coaches, and they said that they felt similar. So we made this event. 400 of you registered, and then we asked you a bunch of questions, including, can you personally relate to Emma's situation? And I'm actually going to send that right now in the poll so that you can see it on your screen. So it's in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Can you vote? Can you personally relate to Emma's situation? And then if you vote, you'll see the answers and you'll see what comes up. So at the moment, we've got 75% yes. And then the answers are still coming in. So everyone vote, and then you'll see how much it comes up with. 75%, 74%. I mean, this is big. I feel like this is big, this is pressing. And if you feel like this, you are definitely not alone. So as part of the post session sign up, you shared all your amazing questions and all your amazing challenges that the panel are going to answer. And this is really an all-star panel. And I'm so actually stoked that they all said yes to being part of this and that we all managed to do it on the stage. We all managed to find a time when we were all available. So you might be familiar with the people that you see in front of you right now, but first I want to introduce you to Janet M. Harvey. So Janet's got 30 plus years experience training and coaching leaders at Fortune 500 companies on 6 continents. She is a former International Coaching Federation president, and she's also a credentialed MCC, so Master Certified Coach, with 12,000 plus hours of experience. I don't even know how many days and weeks and years that is, but that is a long time coaching. And then we've got Maya Raichura, who is building the Nike of mental fitness. So every month she hosts Mental Fitness Live. She speaks globally on mental fitness, on visualization, and on becoming the top 1%. And she delivers one-to-one coaching for high-performing CEOs, founders, visionaries, and athletes. We have David McQueen, and he works with executives, founders, and boards. He helps them refine leadership strategies, build high-performance cultures, and navigate complexity with confidence. And he shares content. Some of you might actually recognize him from LinkedIn. And his book, The Brave Leader, explores what it means to lead courageously and strategically in a fast-changing world. We also have Kelby Cooper-Smith, who is the youngest ever ICF Mastered Certified Coach. So Kelby coaches Fortune 100 execs, UN officials, and billion-dollar CEOs. And he also runs a community of coaches who are all focused on becoming better coaches. And then I'm Jodie Cook. I'm going to be facilitating this panel. So I help top coaches and consultants grow their business with an AI version of them built with Coachvox, which is my software company. And then I also train coaches to use AI and write for Forbes about AI coaching and marketing. So I'm going to be facilitating everyone, keeping us all on track. We have so many questions that you already shared. Please do use the chat to share your comments, ask more questions, and we're going to get to those as we go along. We will wrap up on the hour. We'll be done at the hour, so you can get on to your next things. But want to go to the panel. Want to get straight in with this. So 74% was the poll at the end, by the way. Can you personally relate to what Emma said? We've got 74% yes. And then Kelby, we'd love to start with you. So you're the youngest MCC coach on record. You were 29, I believe, when you submitted your certification. So I feel like you are very much part of this. I'm going to almost call it like a kind of new wave of coaches. So what's your main reaction to what Emma said?
Yeah, on face value, I resonate as well. I can definitely see this happening in the industry. One of my first coaching gigs was working with BetterUp. Left that very quickly, but I definitely see how that has been exploding over the past years. So it's hard to say exactly everything that's out there, but for me, it was very clear that there is a mass market commodification of coaching, and there will always be the elite level premier coaches, and that's the game that I want to play. And so my focus has been on how can I differentiate myself and distinguish myself as someone who really is an excellent coach. Getting the MCC credential was a big part of that for me personally. But I think that's the biggest thing, that there's always going to be people at the top of the industry who are succeeding. And the reality is that most people in most fields are average. So I think it's just about playing a different game at the most high level.
Maya, there we go. So you are such a great example of someone who is a coaching success these days, to use the phrasing from the quote below. But I know that your approach is quite different from the traditional or the accredited route. I would love your thoughts on what Emma said, but also like your specific setup as a coach in terms of clients and community and events and the stuff that you do.
Yeah, I feel like a bit of a black sheep here, but that's okay. Do you know, for me, the thing I was most passionate about is visualization, and it was very niche in the mental fitness space. Now, don't get me wrong, I did look up mental fitness coaching and accreditation, but truthfully, when I really looked inside what was part of that, it didn't resonate. It wasn't the type of coach I wanted to be. So I kind of had to build it myself. But the thing is, I'm not shy about the fact that I didn't go through the traditional route of getting an accreditation. I guess went off lived experience, yes, but it didn't mean that I wasn't investing in who I was as a coach and actually learning from some of the best coaches in the world. And what I find today, though, and actually this year has been particularly interesting because I've been massively challenged as a coach because of my age, my gender, and my color, especially in the industries I'm in, which is sport, Premiership football, Wimbledon, running. And it's been really interesting because I have so much respect for coaches who are way older than me, but also coaches the same age as me. But the reason I'm proud to own what I do is because I know I've put the hours in. I ask the people in front of me, is my audio okay as well? I don't know. Yes? No? Yeah. Okay, cool. All okay? No, yeah.
Your audio sounds great to me.
Jodie.
I think you sound okay. I can hear a beeping, but I actually think it's from my house outside somewhere. But yeah, if we're just not whenever we're not speaking, we'll just go on mute. So you're good. Go for it. Carry on.
Yeah, and I think for me, like I went through a process where I don't think I was a very good coach when I first started, and I didn't really call myself that. Someone asked me if I did one-to-one, and then slowly, as I've had clients, I've built up great testimonials, but also great experience, and actually asking, what did you like? What did you not like? So, yeah, I think what I've done is shaped it in a different way, but I'm never gonna pretend that I know more than anyone else. No, I'm very like, I appreciate that people will have different experience, but as much as it's about being the best in your industry, I think it's also about finding what you are very good at in your niche. Because I think we live in a world where being a mindset coach, being just a leadership coach, I don't think is enough anymore. I think you have to really find something within that makes you stand out.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
So
There's so much to unpack there. Janet, go for it if you're back.
yeah, I'd love to pick up what Maya was just saying.
For
Oh,
sure.
strange internet. Is
We'll
it
introduce you
echoing,
go, and
or
then
am
we'll
I
introduce
just
David
saying?
after that. No, you sound great. You sound great.
Good. At the heart of what I think Emma is saying, if you're thinking about how everybody else is doing it, you're always behind. It's a little bit like going in the revolving door and you can never figure out how to get out. You got to come back home to yourself. Really high quality coaching comes from the essence of who a person is and the resonance you create with another human. I don't care if you're doing mindset work or health coaching or writing a book or fill in the blank. Those are applications. At the end of the day, people come to coaches for learning, for growth, and for change. And we have an ethical code in ICF, which lots of coaches follow who aren't ICF coaches either, which is a commitment to consistent value. Not how I define value, but how the clients define value. And it's our responsibility to ask those questions. The most hardened CHRO will look me straight in the eye and say, I don't have a budget, but I know you're the right person for this leader. Because we're having a conversation about how that leader's behavior and mindset transforms will produce business outcomes. Now, not all coaching happens in organizations. And while the platforms are primarily working in organizations, what is the platform trying to do? Democratizing is giving more access. That's a value proposition. It's not the only value proposition. Sorry, I'm getting a delay in my ear. So my first answer to Emma and the rest of you like that, what's the inspiration for being a coach in the first place? What impact are you wanting to create? And to Maya's point, tell your story. You've been a client. You've got your first client case to talk about what you brought, how you worked with your coach, and the difference it's made in your life. And you're going to tell those stories over and over and over again. And the people that are meant to work with you are going to see that. They're going to see it in you and the way you show up with them. Presence, partnering, and perceiving wholeness are the key to success, no matter what happens in the changing environment.
Would love everyone to know your thoughts on what Janet, Kelby, and Maya have shared so far. I'm also going to share another poll, and that's just to get an idea of who's in the room, and it's what kind of clients you mainly work with, just so that we understand the mix of kind of corporate coaches, private client coaches, etc. So feel free to answer that and keep us posted. There's I can see some 100% in the chat, which is always always a good thing. But I want us to disagree a tiny bit. So David, you're in. So I know that so many people will maybe recognize you from your controversial takes on LinkedIn and your controversial takes with friends. And I've been very, very lucky to be your friend for like 5 years now or something. And I can always count on you to just tell me how it is on just about every single topic. So what's your so feel free to unmute yourself and then let us know what's your thoughts on what Emma shared.
Yeah, 100%. Me, controversial? Never. I'm shy and retiring. Hello, everybody. So I come from it. I'm not a qualified coach either. However, I do hang around with enough coaches. So Maya, me and you are in the same, so we're cool, right? We're in the same bag. However, I am supervised by two qualified coaches. And what I do is I try to take as much information and understanding of practices from different schools of thought. So on the one hand, I look at ICF and ACA and other groups, and I'll see kind of what I call the global north models of actual coaching. But I've also learned a lot of development from my coaching from Ubuntu in Africa, from Hawaiian teachings, from Nahavo teachings. And when I did a lot of work with a rather large bank that's based out of Hong Kong, you can figure it out for yourself. I had to tap into Confucian coaching as well, because what a lot of my clients were expecting that their offices remotely would do outside of Europe was very, very different within Hong Kong and within the Southeast Asian market. And one of the things that I found is that, again, to your point, Jodie, I do like to poke the bear, because I think that there is an opportunity for individuals to go, right, just because we have been told that something goes in a certain way doesn't mean that we can't remix it. That doesn't mean that we can't test it and do things slightly differently. And so my journey to coaching, I have it in 4 different layers. So most people know me first and foremost from my content that I've been writing for years. And again, as I said, I don't mind having a controversial take, and I don't mind being proven wrong, because I think people are very, like, I'm not one of those people that goes on LinkedIn and misspells all the words so that the algorithms don't shut it down. I don't care. Tell me off. If you don't like it, I'll put it on my own blog, all right? I'm not misspelling it. I swear. I do all these things. I don't swear at people, but I will use profanity in my context, because I know I have a wide use of my language. But often it is, as I'm saying to people, don't be afraid. I'll use humor. Don't be afraid to be in this space. And the reason why I do this is I'm trying to model what I do as a coach. I'm saying to individuals, if you're stuck in your space, I don't want you to be afraid. I want you to be in a space where you have a sense of courage, a sense of bravery, a sense where you can step forward. So I do that first with my content. Then I do it with my speaking. I challenge people with my speaking, whether that's my keynotes or my masterclasses. Then I have some workshops sometimes, which are the group ones. But the top tier of what I do with my coaching, I only work with a few clients each year. And what I've got to is that, again, in my path, I work with a few clients per year. Sometimes I do a little bit of group coaching if I'm doing a mastermind, but mainly I work with a few top tier. And the reason being is that I really want to pour into those individuals, and I really want to give them my all. And that's my specific model. So it starts with my content, goes to my speaking, whether I'm doing online or in person. Then we have like the leadership development programs. And then at the top tier, I have a select few that I go through and do some coaching. Does that help?
Nice.
Oh, sorry, let me answer the question.
Sure.
I give you the context, but let me answer. Sorry, I just went off on one. The question to Emma's question, it is changing, but it has always been changing. That's the thing I would say. I think AI coming along is to be fair, it's just another one of the changes that we've had. There are individuals who are forever going to be in this space, and I just think we have to adapt. I'll give you a very, very quick example of somebody who said, look, Dave, I want to jump on a call with you because I know you do this one-off coaching. Can you come and pay me my money? And I literally sat down with them and we broke down their model, and all they were worried about was like, they're trying to find one-to-one clients. And I was like, do you have a coaching model of your own? Do you have a framework? Let's get that framework. Let's license it out. Let's trademark it. Let's IP your own specific framework. Then you can use that. You can write a book, which is what I did. And you can do workbooks, or you can do retreats, or you can work. There are about 4 or 5 different things that you can do. And I think one of the challenges that I think a lot of coaches are facing, which they're worried about, is because they've gone to a school of thought or they've followed other people's ideas and they think there's only one lane when they're on a 4-lane motorway. And I'm saying, even though the essence of what you can be doing is that real one-to-one, real deep, as Janet said, that real deep value added offering, there are small other bits that you can have at the side where people can still have a piece of you, even if it's not one-to-one with you.
I'm going to come back to thinking about different forms that your coaching could take, because I want to pick up on what you said about content, especially because a ton of the questions that we got in were around personal brand marketing, positioning. One of the sentences actually was just, do you have to be an influencer to succeed in coaching these days? So big question, maybe. But a kind of lesser strong question after that was just, do you need to be a coach with a personal brand? So would love to get your take on this, in terms of how do you need to be an influencer to succeed in coaching these days? And have you taken that route as well? Would love to start with Kelby.
I think I'm proof that you don't have to be an influencer to be successful as a coach. I mean, it depends on your definition of success, but I am very inconsistent in creating content. I feel like it's always something that I want to do more of, but hasn't become a priority. I don't think I've gotten any clients from content that I've put out. So I would say it's a solid no, you don't have to. And I do think it's an incredibly big value add as far as getting a wider array of people who know, like, and trust you. And so the people that I think of as thought leaders in the coaching space, I only know about them because they create so much content. So it's just so evident to me how valuable it can be. There's so many incredible coaches. And I mean, I would consider many of us here and myself one of these who just nobody knows about because we don't make ourselves available. And so that's definitely an edge for myself and something that I'm going to focus on in the coming years.
So Kelby, how do you get your clients?
Largely referrals, word of mouth, and coaching agencies, similar in some ways to the Better Up model, but higher tier, I would say.
And then the word of mouth. So how do you get onto people's words? Like, how do you meet people? What's your like specific strategy?
Yeah, I mean, when I started off, I was basically reaching out and following up and being persistent have been the keys to my success. And doing so, obviously in a respectful way that is generous and adding value. I did a fair amount of pro bono volunteer coaching for nonprofits when I was starting out. I mean, I started coaching when I was 19, got certified at 22. So it was part-time for many years. But just being clear about who I want to work with and being intentional about creating relationships in those space, being very generous about offering my time to give people an experience of what coaching is like, so that even if it's not a good fit now, eventually it might be for them or somebody that they know. Doing things that doesn't scale is kind of a catchphrase, but I think for the most part, I focus on providing as much value as I can and trusting that will come back.
Nice. Maya, I would love to get your take as well, because I know you've got a different, just alternative experience of this.
So I guess for context, on both LinkedIn and Instagram, I'd say like there's quite a large following. But I actually think I made a big mistake because I found, especially on Instagram, my content can kind of resonate with a lot of people, that to find clients, I actually think it's the wrong space for me to do it. And I don't actually get a lot from there. What I would say though, is that if you can think of content and creating content, whether that's you writing on Substack, whether that's you writing a newsletter, it might be you doing videos somewhere. I think it just increases your surface area of luck, I'm going to say. But I don't mean luck. I just mean it's another distribution channel. If you think ages ago, really, we had to just rely on word of mouth. These days, it's just an element of someone can see your work because we do live in a world of social media. But one thing I would say is, like, I have met coaches who, let's say, are getting 50 views on an Instagram reel, but it will convert them 10 clients. So I think the problem is we go into like content creation thinking, oh my God, I need to get all these viral posts and be like 1 million, views. But actually, it just brings the wrong people in. If you aren't so clear on what type of person are you serving, and like Janet was saying, like, who are you? People want to know who you are so they can connect to the person. And I guess the other thing is, like, I do agree that with Kelby that some of the most inspiring coaches that I know and I learn from don't have any presence on social media. But I don't think you should just rely on word of mouth. And I don't think you should just rely on social media. And I don't think you should just rely on one distribution channel. If you are passionate about the work you're doing, it will be value to even just one person. Think of it like that. Because if you can start to just, be in a few more places, you'll just increase your surface area. But I will also just take a moment to appreciate that if you are starting out your business, doing content can be tough. Like, it's a whole nother job, and people forget that. Like, it's so easy to be like, yeah, why don't you just post on Instagram every day or post on LinkedIn? I mean, it's a whole nother job, and not everyone can afford to just buy a whole content team. So all I would say is start small, but start consistent. And if you are talking about the stuff that you enjoy and that you love, and base it on the things you've worked with your clients, make it easy for yourself. It just gives you a really good starting point. And just pick one platform, just one, stay with it for at least a year, then feel free to go to other ones. Don't try and spread yourself super thin. Stick with one. If you love video, go for TikTok, Instagram. If you love writing, go for LinkedIn. I'd say that's better in terms of B2B and decision makers, but it depends on the type of coaching you do. But really, yeah, go for one. Don't try and do everything in the world. That's what I would suggest. So content's great. Yeah.
My understanding of your kind of setup is that there's a big kind of, there's a big top area, which is where you send your videos. You've got, it must be about 1 million followers across platforms, across Instagram, LinkedIn, everything else. My understanding was that was kind of how you attract everyone. And then you have your events and your book and the other stuff in the middle, which is where you meet people on a more kind of personal basis. And then some of these make inquiries to then become private clients. But are you saying the private clients don't come? Do the private clients come from that presence?
Not always, sometimes, but you know what? Never underestimate the power of meeting people in person. Like, I'll be so honest. I used to be so cheeky that I used to just hang out in places that I knew my type of person would be. And I remember meeting someone in a lift in like a members club in London. And naturally, like, I just had asked a question and I literally signed her in that lift. Not because it was anything crazy. It was just because I think people don't realize that in-person networking and connection has a massive role to play these days. If you go to events or even at your public speaking, whatever you might be doing, take advantage of that as well. So yeah, for me, my bigger mission is the mass market. But for my private clients, either it will be LinkedIn, some on Instagram, but actually in person is where I find a lot. In person, love it. And it's where I can be myself. My personality can show. I don't have to hide behind any screens as well.
I love the idea of going to members clubs in London and not even joining, just getting in the lift and talking to people.
So
you could go up and down, and you could just, it would new people all the time. They wouldn't know that you didn't have anywhere to be. This is great. This is a tactic. So, David, I know that you are members of some private members clubs in London. So, what's your tactic? How do you get clients? And actually, the original question, do you have to be an influencer to succeed in coaching these days?
No, nobody needs to be an influencer with a Z. No one needs to be that, right? You can be fine. One of the things I will say though, and I'm going to push back on Kelby because we need a little bit of controversy in here. I would encourage you to actually create some stuff that you bring to the table that comes with your flavor, because with the amount of individuals that are out there, and I know you'll get referral work, but because it's becoming more crowded, how does your signal reach people when there's a lot of noise? And that doesn't mean that you have to bombard individuals with information, but I think it's something that can be done. And if you think about it, you can do it really well. So that might not necessarily mean, I say Kelby, but I'm talking generally. What it might mean is, look, sometimes you might just end up on a podcast. Like I'm my own podcast, but I featured on more. And I've gone to share my thinking and why I think this stuff is courageous. And it's an absolutely brilliant space. I've got clients just because I've appeared on somebody else's podcast. So when I think about content for myself, I literally plan mine in the week. So I will sit down and I will have themes, and the themes will link through to all the work that I do. So at the core of what I do in my work is really around decision making. The reason being is because I know most senior leaders and people that I work with have not been taught or really struggle with making decisions. So that's the kind of niche that I work with. And because I've got a commercial background, I used to be an accountant for my sins. My parents wanted me to do one of the migrant four, as I call it. And, and I also was in IT. I had this commercial background that I could then bring into the actual space. But I've always enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed presenting. So that's something that leans to me specifically. But what it's meant as well, it's a great way of telling people who I don't want to work with as well. Because one of the things is that there are lots of people who will go, oh, I want to kind of like coach with you. And I'll just say, sometimes I'll tell people I'm a premium coach. Look, I'm 56. All right. I'm just letting you all know here. I'm 56 years old. I know I look younger. Thank you very much. But the fact is when I go out there, in terms, there's a lot of other younger, more dynamic, more different people. And I'm in that space. I have to make effort for that signal over noise. And so to your point, Jodie, as well, even when I'm a member of Soho House, so when I'm in some of the private members clubs as well, I get to meet some people, but they are not necessarily my main clients, but sometimes they will refer me. So like, you know, like Maya says, sometimes you'll be in the lift and you're having a conversation with somebody really random and they go, what do you do? And after I've told them my cheeky answer, I'll kind of like say, this is some of the stuff that I do around leadership and coaching. And they go, ah. And then they go, I know somebody who could use that. And I go, oh, fine, if you know, just connect with me. And I think the bit that Maya said, which I thought was quite powerful, is wherever you are and there's an opportunity to talk to people about the value that you bring, use that opportunity. But I will say this, even if it's a small little bit of content that gets the world to know how you see things differently, I say just find a moment on a Sunday, take an hour out and write one piece that you can then repurpose as 3 across different, you know, whatever you're going to do, video, written or podcast in a week, and get it out there. I'm a big fan of content for coaches because I think it really distinguishes us in a market that's very, very crowded.
Thank you. I sent a poll as well on this topic that we've just been talking about, and it's, are you actively building your personal brand? And the answers are yes, no, not planning to, or no, planning to. And so far we've got 68% saying yes, and then 27% saying no, but I'm planning to, which is kind of interesting because it's almost like, well, it depends, I guess it depends on your goal. If your goal is to be full and to not have to do anything above just looking after clients and then doing your thing, then it's almost like, what's the benefit of being on social media? And with that, if you don't need the new clients, would you want to show up? But then if your goal isn't just to be full, if your goal is like impact, ripple effect the world, then it feels like that's where that part comes in. But one of the, sorry, my mom's calling me. Sorry, Mom, I'm on a panel. I just started ringing. So one of the comments that we got on what Emma said is her messaging may be off, or she hasn't found where her ideal clients hang out. And I want to touch on messaging and positioning, because I think something else that came up through the responses was that it's almost like, to succeed as a coach now, you kind of need to promise an outcome, or you need to be able to say, like, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to take you from this place to this place, and this is what you're going to achieve, which I believe is quite different from the kind of ICF credentialed way of doing things. So Janet, would love to get your thoughts on that kind of outcome focused coaching, and if someone should position themselves on that, or if there's actually a different way to do it.
And I also want to comment on your point. It is dualistic thinking. Is it outcome and solution focused, or something else? We're doing human development, folks. We're awakening consciousness. We're giving people back the toolbox that's inside of themselves. They will always come saying, I want this outcome. I want to solve this problem. I want to make this goal. I want to climb this mountain, whatever it is. And the key to them being able to do that is them noticing and accessing it. So, to the earlier comments, what do you care about? And if you like writing, use all the platforms. Make a hot take or a hot give, something you read in your morning reading when you logged onto your email or your LinkedIn or whatever it is. But make sure it's what you stand for. So I have somebody who comes to me and says, my board is a mess and I can't seem to get them focused, and we really need to re-engineer our strategy. That's not where our coaching is going to go. I'm going to be asking questions about, when did you take your eye off of the dynamic of your board that's led to this breakdown? He knows what the right strategy is. Take it back to a beginning coach. Why are you a coach? Who do you love? Who are you contributing to? What do they experience What's their, the classic pain point? But the truth is, everybody has something that they want to have be different. All coaches, whether trained by ICF or EMCC or AC, or they worked with a coach or they work with a coaching supervisor, you learn how to listen to learn, and then ask to invite someone else to learn to listen to themselves, and ultimately make a commitment to change. So whatever you're doing in your marketing, find out what your unique value is and stand in it. The ideal client that's looking for that is going to show up. And I'm all with what David said. Everywhere you are, your client is right in front of you. Are you asking?
Nice. So I wonder, I'm so interested in the outcome side of it, and as well what you said, Janet, about someone could come thinking they want something, and then you're going to actually take them in a different direction. That's going to be like, you're going to coach them, but they don't know how you're going to do it because that's why they need you. But then in the marketing and in the positioning, if you're not saying, oh, hey, work with me and I'm going to get you to deadlift twice as much, or like, come and work with me and I'm going to get your business to grow twice the size. What's the messaging that then works? And thinking to go to Kelby on this, because this is how you do it, because you don't talk to the wider internet about all the stuff you do, but you must be having one-to-one conversations that say, this is why you should hire me. So would love your take on that.
When it comes to those one-on-one conversations, it's always focused on what does the client want for themselves. So it's not me promising some outcome to everybody. It's really helping elicit from the client what their goals are, and specifically moving beyond what's already a predictable outcome for them. So something that if they were to work on their own in a year, they would accomplish anyways, but really stretching to what might feel like an impossible goal for them, something that would require them to be in a structure like coaching to support them, and stretching beyond what they're already capable of. So it's really customized, highly personalized to the person in front of me. This is something that I've struggled with myself when I think about describing the value proposition for someone who is an ontological developmental coach that really focuses more on kind of personal transformation. And I see this, I work with startup founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and I see in many different businesses, often what gets someone in the door is different than what has them stay. And so I think being very clear about, and the ethical boundaries of what I can and cannot do for someone, but also meeting them where they're at, ultimately, that's the only thing that's going to get someone to commit to the changes that they want to make, is if they see the value in it for themselves. So I say it's a combination of meeting them where they're at and then being open to how it might unfold and change along the way. Meeting them where they're at, which involves truly seeing them where they're at. But I love this. I love this balance. It feels so funny that there's almost like the attracting clients in because of who you are and what you have and your social media and your personal brand, but then also wanting to exactly speak to their needs and what they want. And actually it's not about us, it's about them. Like that balance is fascinating to me, because I almost feel like sometimes you look at a coach's website and you're like, do you even care about your clients? Because this is all about you. But then that's sometimes the thing that attracts people in. But then it feels like there's so much more to it. Maya, I want to go to you, because I feel like something that comes up in positioning, and one of my favorite books on this is there's the 22 immutable laws of marketing. And one of the laws is own a word in the heads of your prospects. And I feel like you do own a word in the heads of many people, and that's visualize, because it's your book, because it's what you talk about. So I want to talk about that through the lens of coaching. Is that something that you would recommend, that other people kind of try and own their concept or their word or their thing that they're known for, that they then attract clients from?
So I initially did this. I initially kind of went in being like a visualization coach, and even on calls, I would really be selling that piece of it. And it just wasn't doing it. Like, it wasn't converting. It didn't really make any sense. And I realized I was explaining the how, which actually is what you do in the coaching, rather than they didn't really want to know about that at the beginning. And like how we were saying, you gotta make it about them. But one thing to remember, I actually don't think 20 minutes or half an hour for that initial call is enough. I think if you can to really spend an hour with an individual and learn about them, be curious about them, because they're only going to really start telling you the stuff after about half an hour. We're human, right? We like to keep it all, and then it's like then the real stuff comes out. So I think for me then, this mental fitness aspect of it, I went a bit broader, where people kind of intrigued, unsure, but they knew it would relate, because I basically then termed the 3 words: think, feel, perform, like the top 1%. And no matter kind of in what industry you're in, you can apply that to your life. So it was enough of a leg in to be like, oh, okay, this kind of relates. And then on that call is when we really go for it. And I remember then from visualization, I went to, okay, I can help you rewire your brain. But again, that sounded like a lot of effort to rewire your brain. So people were like, oh no, not for me. So it's like, what am I doing wrong here? And I think in a similar way, I can't guarantee that, this is exactly what's going to happen, because every brain is different, every journey is different. But I think if you can be honest about that, and you can say, this is what the experience will be like, sometimes I will be giving you what you need, not what you want. And that's also really important, because everyone comes in saying, I want this, this, this. But then as a coach, you kind of know that, okay, this is the patterns, we've seen this before. So, but not telling them the answers straight away, just letting them tell you, and just listening and asking more of those questions. But I do really believe that what you are known for can make a big difference, because I have coaches now coming to me about visualization who are much older than me, much more experienced than me. But because I think I took a particular technique and have invested in it more than most people have, it does give me an advantage, but it required time, effort, and also being loud about it and being okay to own it as well. And I was saying just before this call to the people on the stage that I came across someone, I mean, I don't know if they're there, but who basically claims or markets themselves as the most expensive coach in the UK, which I thought was really fascinating. I've never seen someone position themselves just based on price. But everyone seems to love it because they associate high investment with high quality. It works really well for him. So yeah, I think if you can find your thing and own it and play with it and enjoy it, but stay committed to it. You won't get results tomorrow. You've got to be consistent with it, because humans need enough of that repetition to then associate you with that area.
So interesting. So it's almost like, well, kind of question for all of you. To what extent do you feel like there's almost like the old way and the new way, and you need the new way to do now? No, Janet doesn't. Maya doesn't.
No.
So how's it? So basically, coaching's always been roughly how it is. It's just that you have to adapt and do stuff slightly differently.
I think the
Go for it, Janet.
appetite and the pace and the intensity has done a little bit of this over time. As organizations have more fully adopted coaching, the expectation is that you will behave in a certain way. But I can tell you, the last dozen of CHROs that I talked to, they're really unhappy with the platform, all the platform providers, because they needed to create consistency. It puts a straitjacket on the coaches in order for them to collect data and to report and tell an ROI story. But the problem is the people aren't sustaining the change. They pay for sessions. Not everybody shows up. So the organization's actually not getting the business outcomes that they wanted. So that's an aberration, right? There's a disturbance or a distraction, you might say. Coaching, the quality of coaching is still a human-to-human interaction. No matter how much you give them an AI coach that they can use in between to ask questions, get answers, and do some transaction, they're going to come right up against their value system and their belief system. And that's going to require the human connection that has empathy and intuition. Will I do that someday? Maybe. Do we really want to eliminate humans on the planet? I don't think so. Hey, I
No.
was here when knowledge management came, and we said we'd have a paperless workplace. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Technology's going to come and go. Hopefully, we stick
I think
around.
I think there's a
Yeah.
I think
Go for it. Go
there
for
is a I think things will change. I think things have changed. In terms of the coaching modalities, in terms of the way that we approach, and especially one of the things I found is that when you're coaching across cultures, you have to learn to adapt very quickly. So when you are, what's the phrase? There's two phrases. It's high. There's high and low. I remember the word now. I've had a brain fart,
High
so
and
I
low
can't remember what it is.
context.
There you go. High and low. Thank you so much. This is I'll double team Janet. I'll get you next time. So high and low context cultures. There is a way when you're interacting with individuals that you have to adjust, and you have to really park your own way of thinking. And Jodie and I have had a back and forth on this. I really struggle with the whole concept of AI in my space as a coach. I don't mind it as a filter, but as a continuance, I really struggle with that. However, I am not resistant to the fact that there may be some framing that might be in there that somebody needs to kind of like, if there's a specific question, it may not be, as you said, Janet, it may not be as deep as going into the value piece. It might be something that might be a bit more surface that just comes to their mind. But the real work, I believe, gets done when it's one-to-one. In the same way, some clients, if they think that I'm sleeping and they're in another country, they'll send me a voice note and they go, Dave, I know you're sleeping. Please, can you answer this when you wake up in the morning? And they'll wait. So there are different modalities that actual people will use. But I just wanted to jump to another really quick point if I can. And it was the point that both Maya and Kelby made about the time that they spent. I only do half an hour. I do half an hour with my clients. Usually when I'm pre-qualifying before people come in, I only do half an hour, and I have 7 qualifying questions. That is it. 7 qualifying questions. And one of the reasons that works for me is because I've had a lot of people who will either see me speak or see me write or see my content. And very often they'll go in and sometimes they will, some people know how to trick the system and still come through. And then I'll be in there and I'm thinking, well, if you know exactly where I'm coming from, why have you, and this is happening, why have you sat down with me for a whole hour of my time, almost like you wanted to pick my brain? Because I know when sometimes people want to pick my brain. And I literally have like 7 basic standard questions. I literally ask people about the challenge that they're facing at the moment. I ask them about what they've already tried. I ask them things like what's at stake if nothing actually changes. Where do they want to be 6 or 12 months from now? What do they believe is actually getting in their way? And then a couple of others. And those 7 questions tend to be enough for me in that half an hour when I'm with that individual. And don't get me wrong, I think it's important. Each of us have our way of doing that. But for me, those 7 questions and then those 30 minutes, and usually when I say to individuals, we're going to have 30 minutes. I want you to be pointed about what you really want. It really does sharpen the mind of people when they're in that space. So it's interesting to know that you guys will go longer. But for me, 30 minutes and I'm good. Fight me.
Sure. So in the lift. So if you have a look at what Emma's saying and imagine that we're not being coaches, we're being she's our friend. Emma's our friend, and we're saying to her, this is how you sort this out. And so I'm saying this because 75% of people resonate with that. An overwhelming number of the questions and the comments that we had was like, yes, I feel like this. What do I do next? What's my first step to getting out of this? Like, how do I start getting clients? How do I grow my business? What's the kind of quick fire advice you would give to Emma if she was your friend? Kelby.
And quick fire advice is hard. You receive in life what you accept. And so if you're accepting McDonald's level work, that's what you're going to get. So I would say set a higher standard for yourself and do cold outreach for your ideal clients. The single biggest contract that I've ever gotten to date has paid me almost $200,000 over a couple of years, came from when a warm introduction failed and I reached out cold and got an interview and got hired within a few days. And I think most people are not willing to do that, feel nervous about following up and being persistent. I got a client this year who I met 3 years ago, and every so often would check in, share something when I thought of him. So I think those are the 3 key ingredients for me in my experience.
Nice. It wasn't hard. You nailed it. Got it. Maya, what would you say?
So I think I just think this is a really great opportunity to kind of like take a step back, and all the learning and the experience Emma has is not going to go to waste. I think it just needs to be maybe like refined a little bit, that yes, because times are changing, but this feels a bit like looking at what everyone else is doing and being like, should I be doing this? Should I be selling courses? I think you've got to play to your strengths and your advantages, but do it in a way that it might be a bit more innovative. That's one thing. The other thing I'd say is I think there's actually 2 different things here, because I really do believe it's great that coaching is getting more accessible. I think naturally it's been quite a inaccessible thing for a lot of people. So I get why companies are investing in platforms. It is cheaper, and actually some of the platforms do have really brilliant coaches in it. So I'm not going to shut that down. But what I would say is if you're trying to build a private coaching business, I don't necessarily think you're competing with corporates. I think there are going to be individuals in these corporates that will still use your services, even if their company might be using BetterUp or whatever. I think this is where the more niche you can go and really find that thing that you can talk about for ages and never get bored kind of thing. That I think will get through the noise a little bit, but too much on what others are doing, and we're focused on, oh no, I don't see this as a threat. I see this as a really cool challenge to use as an opportunity to get better, grow, and level up. That's what I see as.
Nice. Janet, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to build on Maya. Take some time to practice reflection. Where do I show up and feel completely alive? Where my thing, whatever my jam is, just radiates off of me to everyone around me. Get really clear about the places and the people and the context that's so. And get really disciplined about saying no. Yes has no integrity if no isn't the right answer for you. You must discern. It's a little bit about what David was saying about you want to repel people as much as you attract. Attract the right people, and the people that aren't for you won't be the noise in your system. And the last piece about forget about what anybody else is doing. There is no competition in this field. Because the work is so personal and intimate, you are creating relationships you will have for the rest of your life. Even long after you finish your coaching contract, they're in your field. They're part of you and you're part of them. Hold that precious. Make your choices based on that and shape the worlds where you love your life's work.
So it starts with you. It all starts with us. It starts with what we can't stop thinking about, how that builds out into content, how that builds out into working with our clients, meeting people in lifts, passion, essentially. And then that's the thing that attracts the clients in. Did you take, David, give me some final words, and then
I'll give you my
go
3.
for it.
Be curious. So 3 C's. Be curious about yourself and the people who you want to work with. Be creative. So don't be stuck in one specific lane. Find out exactly what works for you. Okay, it could be 1, it could be 3 different things. Be really creative. And then the last one, be courageous. Even though there are lots of things that are happening, there's a whole world out there. There are millions of people who need coaching. All right. So at the end of the day, just be really courageous and go out there. Believe in your source. That's what my daughters would say to me. Believe in your source, Dad. All right. So I'm sharing that back out there. Believe in what you're capable of. But be curious, definitely be creative, and be courageous.
Beautiful. Amazing. Mindful of time, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Everyone, thank you so much. I'm going to share around more of the kind of questions and the responses that we got, and some of the actions that we talked about as well. But yeah, loved it. Thank you all so much. I think fascinating. Thank you everyone for being here. in the morning, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. And yeah, you're gonna get an email from us asking for some feedback and telling and inviting you to ask any more questions. Maybe we'll repeat it, who knows? But thanks everyone.
And thank you to Jodie.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you so
you.
much.
Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
Bye.
Great to be with you all.